Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to my kitchen in Sweden. I needed to make some grungy background papers. So I'm turning on the camera and you can keep me company for a little while and see if you can get some inspiration of what I'm doing. For the moment, I'm just preparing some papers with gesso. I'm just taking them on a little card, little amount, and then just spreading it on different places. This will make the color, will get stuck on some of these and look grungy. And some of them will be a bit flat and get it a bit of texture. No big amounts, just a little bit on my card, and then I'm just spreading it randomly. No fancy things and no patterns, just like it is grungy. Using ordinary copy paper, 80 grams. It's the most common weight of copy paper. And this is A4 that we have as a standard in Sweden. So this is the first thing I do when I do the grungy paper. I also need some coffee dyed, so I will do that too tonight in some different strength. Some will be very light and some of them a little more grungy and dark. So I will do a few of these and then I will come back to you and show you what I do in the next step. So when the gesso is kind of dry, I'm not checking it so if it's perfectly dry, I'm just doing it anyway. Then I'm taking a little bowl of coffee, and this is ordinary coffee blended with water. I saw it was a kind of a little blue color in the bottom, but that was from some old color, so I'm not so afraid of that. So then I'm just taking my brayer and put the water onto my papers. Now you can see it gives a pattern from where the gesso is painted. If you want it a bit darker, you can just spray on some more coffee. And then I leave this to dry. If you want more color, you can use brush powder, or you can use some other kind of acrylics, watercolor. Use whatever you had. I have these Brusho light brown powders too. You can add a little bit so that you can see the difference. You can see it's getting much darker right away. Another color, more kind of reddish. that works too. It's kind of fun to have a little different colors to make your journals a bit more fun with. Like that. And if you would like some other color, you can maybe take some of your distress inks, and I haven't tried this, but we can do that now. I'm just lightly putting my pad over the paper, and then we can take the brayer and see what's happening. Get a bit more bluish pattern. You can leave those papers to dry, or you can use your iron and iron them right away if you're in a hurry. That's a nice way to quickly get them dry and flat. Let's do one more of these kind of blue ones. Very light on my hand, no pressure, just moving it across the paper. You can use a brush, you can use just a spray bottle. When this dry, it's grungy, but still not this dark and heavy one. But you still have the texture, and differences makes the paper a little more fun to play with. If you like that. We can use antique linen, do the same thing and see how that looks. Doing the same, just lightly, not pressing at all. If you have an older one, you can press it some more. But this is not so old, so let's take the spray bottle and see how that looks. You can see it's the same effect. As with the brayer, so you can just spray it. And if you are that kind of person that don't like the texture and the grunginess that feels on the paper, just do maybe 10, and then you can copy them, and then you have the pattern, but you don't need to have this feeling of gesso or whatever medium you are using. Then you get the pattern and you don't need to feel that grunginess on the paper. And that way, if you save 1 or 2 papers, you don't need to do this process every time. You can just go to your machine and do as many copies as you would like to have. Now I'm just picking up some color on my baking sheet. This is silicone baking mat that I'm using. So should we go a little bit more dark? Maybe take real instant coffee. And then I'm taking some hot water. If you don't want big blobs on the paper, make sure that you stir it and make sure you don't have any of these crunches. This will make dark dots on your paper. So let's take some water first. And then the coffee. And you can of course do part of it with the color and leave some of it white if you like that. I mostly want to work with the paper that looks authentically old, and then this one is too dark. But it's fun to use them on different ephemeras that wants a bit more color and pattern. And you can even go in with some Gesso powder if you would like to get it even grungier. You don't need especially much of this. Now you will see you get a totally different color. And now you're getting dots and real heavy pattern in different blue greenish tones. This was Ost Indian blue, and the brown one I used was light brown. Be careful when you go in with the brayer so you don't ruin the paper. Then you can just play. And when you do like this, this will stay on, these blue dots, so it will dry like this. So if you don't like the dots, you need to solve it in water first. You can do that too, so that you can see how it looks. So I'm going to just rinse off this brown so you can see the blue. Looks like this. Beautiful blue color. If you don't blend it, it will be purple and turquoise, but if you blend it purple and turquoise, you will get this really nice blue color. I always go light. If I feel that I want it darker, I do it one more time after it has dried. Then I never get it too dark at once. Everything gets more deep in color if you layer it, just as ephemera and other things in your journal. Like that. Let's blend it with some coffee on a few places. I will show you the result later when these have dried, so you will see the differences between the papers. So let's go with this, and then we can blend in some coffee. Then it gets a bit more gray bluish. Try to go a little bit darker for those of you that like that. I really love to just play, blend colors, splatter them on, and just enjoy being childish, if we can call it that. I guess I like baking because I can just play with all things and have everything spread all over my kitchen. Everything dries much lighter, so don't panic if you get something really dark. So I will rinse this again. Another way to get the color if you don't have anything else, use your ink pads and just put a little bit of moisture in a can like this, and then you just dab it and use the color that you get off the ink pad. Then you will get some very light colors. You may almost not see it. But that's a way to do it. If you have a new pads or re-inkers, just put that in the water and use that. This is really nice if you print something on top of this, some script or other patterns when it has dry. It gives a really super nice effect. I have 2 more left to go. Let's be wild and crazy. Just so I can give you some different ideas how to play. And there we have a bit more grunginess with the instant coffee spread on the paper. Then I'm cleaning off my table with just the paper. Sometimes I feel like I just want to have it on the edge. Often on old documents you just have this yellow tone where the sun has reached it, and if it has been lying around in a bunch of paper, the sun has gotten to it just on the edges and it have went yellowish. So then you can just leave the rest of the paper white and you have this really nice feeling of old paper. I really love this kind of white paper, white pattern on the paper, that the thin layer of gesso, almost like clouds on the paper. So I will do a couple of more and then I will be back and show you the result when I have tried them. So see you soon. I'm back and I have dried my paper. So this is the one we did with the pigment, the brush of powder, Ostindia blue. And then these ones are the coffee dyed paper that I want to be like authentic with the old papers. So you can see it's just a little bit of yellow on the papers. Some a little bit more, but not so much. This is just the edges and a little piece in the corner. This one has also kind of small pieces here and there, not so much. But this is how I want them. They are still a bit yellowish and have this feeling that it's more old, as they have been wet for a while. These ones we have bloops and spots of coffee. Here you can see the difference in the color. So you can see that it's still dyed, even if it doesn't show so much. So I did a bunch of these to use in my antique journals that I want to be authentical in the papers. So then these are the ones we did with gesso. And they are grungy but still kind of calm. This was the one we did a little darker with the coffee and the blue paint. Really like this shape that gesso make. You still can't feel that it's gesso. It's very soft and no stiffness or something like that. So if you make it really thin, you don't even notice it. Except for the color, and you can see that it makes some bubbles almost where the gesso has been. This was the one that we spritz instant coffee right on. And this is a gesso paper with the blue color. And then these are some of those we did with powdering on some colors. So these are a bit darker and more grungy. This actually came from the silicone mat that my baking mat that I used. It was this pattern on it for making pastry or kind of what you want to bake. So it's like sizes if you want to bake a cake. And this actually came onto the paper when I dried it. So that was a bit fun. I quickly changed side and used the other side on my silicone mat. I didn't want those circles on my papers. So those were the papers that we made today. So now it's time to go upstairs and continue to work with the journals. I can also show you my rusty pan. This is needles and paper clips and a little bell. So you can see I have needles and paper clips for the rest of my life, I think. And still people send me messages and tell me they have needles I can have. This one is fun. It's from an old factory. And old clips. These are beautiful. So that was my work for today. I hope I gave you some maybe tip or inspiration so you can make your papers a little bit more fun. Thank you for watching and see you soon again. Bye bye from Sweden.